we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to ask Jeremy to do roll call. Jeremy, you're on mute.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 7:01 p.m. and I will do the roll call. If you would please unmute yourself when your name is called. Chair, Madam Alamin Sheila Amin Khashoggi. Why am I here? Ms. Sheila is here. Madam Vice Chair Genevieve C. Sims.
Present.
Mr. Gerald Takano.
Present.
Mr. Greer Webb.
Present.
Thank you, Greer. Mr. David Bland.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Deontay Thomas.
I'm present.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Johnny Thomas. Mr. Ty Harrell. And Dr. Cindy Cottle. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jeremy. We will now have the approval of the agenda for tonight. Have everyone looked over the agenda?
Madam Chair, I move its approval.
I'll second it.
All in favor of approval, just raise your hands. Agenda's approved. We'll now have the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, which was November the 17th, 2021. Have everyone received a copy of the minutes?
Yes, I move the approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those are in favor of approving the minutes for November 2027, 2021, raise your hand. We will move forward with the staff liaison. Demetrius, we'll give you the floor.
Good evening. I hope everyone is well. Ms. Sheila, I hope you're feeling better. Once again, Happy New Year. Haven't seen you all, but Happy New Year. Just a couple of updates. We have a new director for the Department of Equity and Inclusion, Dr. Hamilton. She will be starting on Monday. As part of her onboarding process, she will be visiting all the boards and commissions in the month of February. So February, she'll be visiting all the board meetings. That's the goal, and also begin to meet with community members as well. Also, another update around the policy recommendations that was provided to city leadership back in, I believe, June or July. I re-provided those documentations to Chief Patterson and had a brief conversation with her to get a status of an update. Right now, she's currently reviewing those policies and working on a reply. So she will be providing a response. I do not have a timetable, but I know she is working on a response. Also, we have one more new addition to the Department of Equity and Inclusion, Miss Sophia, which she's also on the camera as well. She's at the bottom of my screen, but I'm not quite sure where she's at on your screen. But she is here, and I will allow for her to introduce herself.
Demetrius, before we do that, could you tell me again the title Dr. Hamilton is filling?
Dr. Caesar's previous position,
Oh,
the
okay.
director of the Department of Equity and Inclusion.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, hello everyone. Once again, my name is Sophia Lindo. I am the newest employee here at DEI, coming in to get started working with you guys as the staff liaison for Police Advisory Board. I do come to you with 6 years of experience in the Department of Criminal Justice. I did attend Virginia State University, where I graduated with an undergraduate degree in political science and government relations and a master's in criminal justice. I am very excited to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you very soon. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may just briefly give the board, since Demetrius did not cover this, a little bit of information regarding our new director. I believe that she will start at the end of this month. And I have not seen a press release giving you any information regarding her. Has one been issued, Demetrius?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, have we been provided a copy of that?
You should have received it in your email. It was one of those
I did
I think
not.
you guys, I will just say that I served on the interview panel for Dr. Hamilton, and I was extremely impressed with her. She has a varied background. She describes herself as both a cultural geographer and an urban planner. Thank you, Demetrius. You just posted where we can find that press release. What I found most interesting about her is in a statement that she provided to the interview panel. The first sentence of her statement is something to the effect of, "Who is the most visible dash invisible person in the room?" And and she goes on from there. And I think that's very telling as an opening statement. She also describes herself as a transformational leader, and that came through during the interview process. She's been involved in equity and inclusion for approximately 15 years, with her most recent post being at Brandeis University in Massachusetts as the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Programming, Training, Education, and Development. I am truly looking forward to working with this woman, and I think all of you are going to be extremely, extremely pleased with the city selection of Dr. Hamilton.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent.
Thank you, Ms. Genevieve, for the report with her. I really appreciate you giving us more details about who she is and what we're expecting. I also want to ask Ms. Sophia to give them a little bit more background or of your position or where you came from and how you can help this board, if you don't mind, please.
Sure. So I did come from the state of North Carolina, working with Department of Public Safety as a probation parole officer. I do come to you guys with ideas on community engagement, with community policing ideas, and being able to give you guys insight in regards to that side of the police field and being actually in the field and working with individuals on a daily, giving different aspects as to the inside role of pretty much how our population that we supervise think, and their opinions on the police boards and stuff like that. As well as my biggest thing, I'm very community engaged. Engagement is one of my biggest passions. So I do look forward to working with you guys regarding ideas in regards to community engagement within the city of Raleigh.
That sure sounds like a winner.
Thank you, Ms. Sophia. I appreciate that. Demetrius, do you have anything else to add?
No, ma'am, I yield my time.
Thank you, Demetrius, for your report. Thank you, everyone, for coming in tonight. Happy New Year. Holidays is over. It's time for us to now start really getting our work plan together. With that being said, unfortunately, Sean resigned for some unfortunate reasons, but we wish him well. Sean was a great advocate in the community, so we are going to miss that advocacy, and I hope people will step to the plate, because Sean was there at the events and he did a lot of things, try to promote the police advisory board out in the community. So we wish him well and we hope the best for Sean. With that being said, I did send the resignation and the request up to City Council. Demetrius, did you make sure that went up?
Yes, ma'am, it was submitted. Now we're just waiting on a new board member. That process, once councils makes their decision.
Sheila, what will he be doing? Or what is he going to be doing?
I have no clue. I know it's still with his program, but I have no clue other than that.
I see.
Madam Chair, quick question.
Sure, Ty.
in light of Mr. Ingram's resignation, if the city council finds someone to replace him, would it be to complete his current term, or would the clock be reset once that replacement is installed for a full term as dictated by the city guidelines?
It should be completing its term, and then from there, am I correct, Demetrius?
It's a new term because he's a new board member. So similar to Mr. Ty and Dr. Cindy or Miss Cindy, it'll be a new term, a new 2-year term.
If I might, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Okay, it will throw everything off if the city appoints him with a new term. They should appoint him to fill the unexpired portion of Sean's term. It's the
Correct.
proper way to do it. Otherwise, everything that we've set in place is thrown off.
Correct.
So it is, when we sent the information up to the city council, it was sent to the council with the request that it be for the remainder of his term.
Thank you.
Demetrius, can you make sure, well, I'll make sure that it is very clear again that it'll be remaining of his term, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, ma'am. I can just, from my understanding, because this will be a new board member, he was not fulfill someone else's term. They will have their own term. For example, if Ty, Dr. Cindy came in, they will have their own 2-year term. They will not fulfill a previous. We can talk offline, but they will have their own 2-year term.
Madam Chair, if I might just ask that we speak to the council about that instead of, because I think it's very clear as to what's going on here in terms of the terms.
What I would do, I would talk to Jonathan. I will ask Jonathan about that particular, since he is our liaison, because that was my understanding as well, but I will talk to Jonathan about it. David, you had your hand up?
Yes, early on, didn't we each one agree to a specific term? And if that is the case, then we should abide by that.
That is the case. We did have terms, and it's a list of people that have their terms coming up, and some will be next year. So we would throw off if we do a new person for a brand new term.
If I
Again,
might
I will
again,
talk to Jonathan. Okay, we have finished that discussion. The next discussion that we want to talk about is 1101-07. The psychological services discussion. Have everyone had an opportunity to look at that? And excuse me. And so let us start our discussion with that.
Sheila? I've read it carefully, and we need to note that it is also, it also references another policy, 110204, that we ought to be aware of as we review this one. I had a couple of opening questions. I did not see in 07 any discussion, and maybe Gerald, you can address this, but I did not see any discussion in here when an officer is involved in deadly use of force, how that person is then referred for, or is he referred or she referred to psychological services?
It's automatic. When someone is involved in a critical incident, either through 1108-1, it's an automatic referral for anybody involved in critical incident to be referred to the psychologist.
Which policy is that or directive is that?
I'm thinking it's under 1108-1 on the use of deadly force. Might talk about critical incidents. I know it's specifically in the policy where it's an automatic referral. Okay, that's been a general protocol, at least even since before I was there, that any critical incident involving an officer, it doesn't have to be just deadly force. It could be any time if something traumatic occurs, might be auto accident, death of a child, something like that. That could be traumatic, that they're referred to this police psychologist.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I will say that Greer has had his hand up.
Thank you. I was just going to ask Mr. Bland to restate the number of his policy.
It's 1102-04.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I might also just make the group aware of the fact that the Policy and Procedure Committee has submitted questions to the chief psychologist for the city and received feedback from her, or answers to those questions, I should say, regarding this policy, because Policy and Procedure is supposed to be reviewing this policy. So any comments that are made tonight regarding the policy, we will take into consideration at our next Policy and Procedure Committee meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Genevieve. Anyone else want to discuss this policy?
Well, I have several things. May I go ahead and do all of mine then?
Go ahead.
On page 2, the intervention, when, and this might be in here, I just missed it, but when is a person either referred to or identified as needing counseling? It's in that first paragraph.
We will look at that question. What's your next point?
Next is page 3, under definition. When I read this, it seems to me that there is one assistant coordinator per district. And I don't recall seeing, oh, wait a minute, it says positions may be increased. That's fair, never mind. Okay, page 6. What is the definite, and maybe Gerald, you have enlightened me on this, but that definite individual critical incident counseling, what does that include? What is the definition of that? And Gerald, you'd already said that it's understood in some other policy that if a person is involved in, some traumatic event, that they would be counseled here. But if in that other policy you referenced, if that is explicit as to what precipitates the action, fine. If it's not specific, then we need to make it specific in this section here.
All right, so I'm going to take that comment as you're indicating that critical incident counseling needs a further definition.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got that.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, David.
Madam Chair.
David, I
just
had
a-
that same one, but anyone else? Gerald?
Yeah, just to his first one, to answer his first question, that it is partially in there. He may want to have it, further clarified, but they're basically two ways that someone is referred to the psychologist. It's either by self-referral, that means the person seeks out the psychologist on their own, or referred by a supervisor. Those are the two main ways. And again, we may want to look at other avenues for how and when someone sees the police psychologist for various reasons related to their employment.
I think you stated it very well just then, Gerald. I think that it's too squishy now, because I might be referred for counseling for X, and you do the same dadgum thing or similar, and you're not. So I think you have to be explicit because you're dealing with a person's psyche in this one, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that. That's something that we can propose and discuss for the policy board committee. One other thing I kind of like to add in as a possibility that's not in the current policy is on the response back, one of the questions asked was the manpower to be able to do the functions of it. And they replied back very generally that they have plenty of manpower to do the things that they're supposed to do. I would suggest one other thing to be more proactive is an annual meeting with each officer in order to be proactive and also an assessment, of our current health of the officers. Any recommendations for training would come out of those combined results of an annual meeting, but I think it might be a consideration to add in there that there should be a regular, if not annual, meeting with the police psychologists for generalized stress management and other mental health concerns related to their employment.
I've made a note of that too, Gerald. Thank you.
Anyone else see anything in this policy they will want to be for the policy procedure to look at?
Madam Chair, if I may, please. I just want to make sure we're understanding 1101-7 is the services rendered to the men and women within RPD, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's important to note that since the questions can be confusing to those listening. And then my other question is, since this policy is new, I believe it's April 2021 when it was brought up again, like, have we asked the people in uniform their thoughts and opinion of it?
That is a good point.
We have not done that yet, Jeremy, simply because we are just in the process of reviewing this policy.
Yes,
We've not made any recommendations to the city other than just sending a series of questions over for the city's department psychologist to answer.
yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Mr. Takano wishes to be recognized, Madam Chair, and then Mr. Bland or whoever.
Gerald?
To get to it, Jeremy's question about the policy that, yes, that particular one is related to service to the police department individual self. There is another policy, I can't remember off the top of my head, that it also gets referred back to the police psychologist for victim services. So citizens who might be involved in there can also be referred to and seen by the police psychologist. And again, I don't know the policy, can't remember off the top of my head, but that she does have some other roles besides just within the police department itself.
So Gerald, you're saying there is another policy besides this policy as well for citizens should be involved?
Yeah, that for victims, violent crime, involved in traumatic incident, there's another policy that also allows for the community to be to receive services, by the city or the police psychologist, I believe. So I'll have to look that up. I'll be able to get it back to the board and forward it to them just so they have an idea of additional roles that police psychologists may do.
I appreciate if you you can look that up and give it, send it out to the board so we can take a look at it as well. Thank you.
Sheila, I think maybe I misinterpreted, but I thought that Jeremy was raising the point that had the officers, the sworn officers, been asked their assessment of this policy. Wasn't that what you asked?
It is, and I think can you all hear me? And I think it's also important to explain to people why is it that we're tackling, well, I'm not sure if we had the opportunity to explain why 1101-7 is important. And I think during retreat last year when we've noted as a board that we are concerned for the psychological well-being of the men and women who serve us. And that's why this topic is being discussed as a board, I think, because if people are listening, they're wondering, why are we talking about this policy when it relates just to our PD? And I think that's important to note. And yes, Dr. Glenn, and I'm just mindful that we're asking because we're concerned. And so if our schools have a lack of counselors, is it the same reality for the men and women who serve us? So that's why we're asking, I guess. I'll be
Right.
quiet now.
No, that's a real point.
And maybe there's no answer, Madam Chair. I'm just asking.
No,
Honestly.
that was a very good question, Jeremy. Very good. Cindy, you just put a policy in the chat.
Thank you, Dr. Cottle.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, and I can send the link if Gerald hasn't, but I think there's a little bit of overlap too with the consulting versus the employed psychologist, I believe. But there's 110507 personnel early warning system. Joel probably knows so much more about this than I do, but there was the one that I put in there pertained to chaplain services, and then there was the consulting psychologist too. So I didn't want to confuse those because those seem to be distinct roles, I believe.
Cindy, where are you putting those? I'm looking at the chat box and I don't see any numbers. The only one I see is 1101-12.
That's one. Yeah, I haven't put the other ones in there because it would be a laundry list. So I'll email what I find, but I think, Gerald probably has them as well. I was just looking them up as we were talking in the meeting because I became curious about what you guys were talking about.
Any more comments on this particular policy?
We move to the next.
Jeremy, did you have anything to say?
No, ma'am. Are you referring to community engagement or within the policy? We were
No, I'm just talking about the policy.
No, ma'am, I am, sorry, I'm finished.
Cindy has something to say.
Yeah, and just to come full circle on the victim witness services, that's 110104. I think it does also mention the psychologist somewhere in there. So I don't have the page number of that, but that's 110104.
And if y'all could email you or Gerald could email that out to the team, that'll be helpful as well. So we could take a look at those. Any more comments on this particular policy? Well, the policy and procedure team will meet again and we'll talk about this policy and we'll come back with a report on this 1101-07. So if there's any more comments on that, we'll move forward to the next item on the agenda.
Sheila, just a clarification. When you all have your meeting and discussion, will you try to determine what the sworn officers' reaction to this is? Are they happy with it? Are they being fulfilled with it, or et cetera? We need to get their input on this, I think, unless it's already been done.
Well, when we meet, we will get some input and I'm sure Gerald will have more information and we'll have more information to give you once we meet on this particular policy. We just started this policy. It was one of the ones that we had elected to do this year. So once we meet and we start with this policy, we'll have more information for you, David.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move further to the committees. First of all, the Policy and Procedure Committee, ACORN's recommendations and policy updates. We will have an update very soon. Ms. Genevieve, you want to speak on that?
Sorry, pardon me, I had to unmute myself. On ACORNs, the committee is busy at work on that policy. And we have received a lot of feedback. So I think that we're going to meet again on it in February and hopefully finalize some recommendations to bring forward to you guys by the February board meeting.
Genevieve, will your report address what other departments are doing, like Eugene, Oregon and Denver, Colorado?
No, it will not. It will only reflect what is happening here.
Well, the fact of the matter is, what is happening here is inconsistent with the majority of research nationwide about these crisis intervention teams. Now, where are we going to address that? I mean, the research is absolutely clear that sworn officers, uniformed sworn officers, and I know Dr. Clark or what that other officer is not wearing a uniform, but there are other officers with her, which completely abrogates the concern.
David, when we meet again, we will have recommendations for the chief to look at. So you have to wait till we finish what we're doing in order for us to have those kind of answers for you. So right now we are completing our assessment, and we'll bring the recommendations to the board to approve.
Very well.
Greer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify for us all, because I remember, not too long ago, we all sent in our suggestions or recommendations about the ACORN program. So forgive me if it's my ignorance, but are we waiting on a response from someone on the city side, including the police chief, or are we still working to compile that on our side into specific recommendations? Because I felt like, to Mr. Bland's point, we did, and I do hear his concern. I think I echoed it in some of my data. So in order to not be repetitive, could you just maybe clarify where we are in that process and kind of reassure us that our information has been maybe seen or is going to be seen soon by the police chief or the city manager?
Well, if I might, Madam Chair, address that point. All right, thank you. And we have taken all of the comments that you've received. We've incorporated those that we can. We're trying to come up with a section by section analysis of the policy, bring it back to you guys before it goes forward to anyone. It has to come back to the board for a board's approval before we make any recommendations going forward. But when you see our product at our February meeting, you can tell whether or not we have incorporated some of your suggestions.
I see. So these suggestions are currently sitting now in our Policies and Procedures Committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
We will now have the community engagement report.
Demetrius, would you be able to show the document I sent, or since we have people calling in?
Give me 1 second.
Thank you. Should we wait on Greer and Ty to come back on camera as well, or?
I'm here, Jeremy. Sorry, I just had to cut off my camera for a second, but you can go ahead and begin presenting. I sent out an email earlier, but I realized it didn't go to the whole board, that I'm going to have to hop off a bit early. So whenever we get that up, you can go ahead and I'll chime in. I know I didn't give you any written remarks.
Perfect.
And that's likewise, Jeremy. I am present. However, I have someone here repairing something, so I was just trying to mitigate the problem.
Perfect. Well, I will now make the presentation then. So I present the following from our Community Engagement Committee for the board's feedback and also hopefully approval. You will see on page 1 is the mission of our board. And I think it's noteworthy to repeat that our task is to serve as the liaison between City Council and the Raleigh community, because we understand that the numbers of council cannot serve the entire city. So Our job is to help them. And we do that by building trust within the community and also deepening the relationship between our PD and also the Raleigh community. So in essence, and we've discussed this at our board meeting when we last met in person, that we all agreed as a board that we serve as a bridge. And it's funny we use that image because some people would say, well, is this bridge sturdy enough to walk into? Or is it a bridge to nowhere? Or is it like the Brooklyn Bridge, which is like a one toll road? But nonetheless, we all agree that we're going to be that bridge between RPD and the community at large. And if you think about it, RPD is part of our community. And so I think that's a difficulty in walking this path before us, if we're being honest about it, because never mind, I'll continue to read this. So we have two responsibilities. The first is to review existing RPD procedures and contribute to fair policy development. And our committee is doing, policy and procedures is doing that. And the second charge we have is to engage community members through RPD directives. You will also note on the document read comments, and we'll come back to those after I run through the proposal. So we've also elected as a board for 2021, our theme focus will be education and trust. And we've divided the proposal into two chunks, a 3-month goal and also a 6-month goal. And the 3-month goal will begin in February 2022. And I'll just run quickly to the bullet points. We think it's noteworthy to reshare our board's analysis of the 21 CP policy analysis that we did last year. Because if you remember, we're in the midst of the pandemic, we still are, and we haven't had an opportunity to share with our larger community the good work that we did last year. I believe we've analyzed 4 policies, and I think it's just beneficial to go back and say, hey, this is what we found, and this is what we sent to RPD for their consideration. So create a Zoom event where our board is now, where we have been, and share hopefully the direction where we are going. I think people don't need to look far to note that we've had a bumpy start, and for any growing organization, it's normative. And so I think it's important to share with everyone where we have been, where we are now, and where we're going. And along that same thrust, use social media, like what Greer noted, on reaching out more members of our community. I think a lot of our fellow Raleigh citizens are on social media in one way or the other. And so capitalize on that. And there's a proposal there before you. And we also want to propose a February listening session regarding acorns. Share acorns and listen to what our community's concerns are. And I think if we are to be credible bridges, we need to listen more than talk. Never mind. My pastor said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So, and so in February and March, it's going to be listening sessions. And in March is that psychological services, what it is, what it means, and how we can support RPD and their families and their community as well, since we are that bridge. The third one, Demetrius, would you please scroll up? The third one is reach out to other police advisory boards within our state and see how they're doing, and how can we collaborate, since we all have the same goal when all is said and done. And on the 6-month goal, it's more broad in vision, and it's going to begin in May of 2022. I think Sean has identified the 4 community centers that we want to visit, so I'll just include those there at the end. Basically, the goal for that is for us to collaborate with the heads of each community center and invite us as board members to just come and see and listen. And hopefully in that interaction, our community will feel like we're listening, and in us listening to them, it'll give us a sense of direction as to what we should do as a board and what's important for them. The second bullet is continue PAB listening sessions via Zoom to inform community of the work the board is doing and with a specific topic each month. Look for ways to engage the community in person as the pandemic lessens and hopefully comes to an end soon. The fourth bullet is connect and partner with community organizations, perhaps through our city's community engagement office, and I believe RPD also have a community outreach office, and see what we can do. There's a saying apparently that if you want to go far, go alone, and if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we have the option there. Partner with RPD for one or more. I mean, I think asking for one is not hard to do of their community events, since hopefully they will see us as partners with them in just making our city a better place for everyone. And then the last two bullet points are just create a listening session event on Zoom or in person for our Black, Latino, and LGBTQ community, and a listening session also for our sisters and brothers in uniform. And so that's the proposal from the board. And Madam Chair, I'm mindful of time. I think we're fine with time, but should we go back to the beginning and just discuss the concerns of people, or what would you all suggest?
Jeremy, one thing, since the Committee on Acres is not going to get a report back to us until February, I think we probably need to adjust when we think we would give a report to the Community on Acres.
That's fine, sir. I'll note that. Thank you. Demetrius, would you please slide all the way to the top? Thank you. So may I continue, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair?
Anyone have any questions or concern about the report that Jeremy just proposed to the board?
Jeremy, I made a mistake on my comment to you under the last bullet on the 3 months.
Yes, sir.
Eugene, Oregon, not Portland.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I guess the question I have, if we're going through discussion now, is under responsibilities, point number 2. I think it's rather vague because it says engage community members through RPD directives. What does that mean, respectfully? So maybe the board or our council can clarify what it is that they intend for that sentence to be.
Jeremy, are you looking for us to approve this proposal?
Yes, ma'am. I also want to recognize the feedback that the committee members submitted. And so if they're okay, it's Mr. Bland and Mr. Johnny Thomas. If they're fine not addressing those concerns, I can call for a motion for approval. Gerard.
Gerald has his hands up. Gerald.
Yeah, as to your last comment on responsibilities on number 2, I think it's to your advantage that it stays broad, gives you more discretion and flexibility to make things happen and do things without being, too much of a solid line that you feel you must stay in. I think that gives you quite a bit of latitude on how you wish to improve and deal with number 1.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
If I might also hone in on that, I don't think there is anything in our directive that says that we get any instruction from RPD. So I would say your second question is one that should just be taken out of your document.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Demetrius, would you please scroll up a little bit? The other way, sorry. Thank you. Mr. Bland, would you want to note your feedback, or would you want me to do it, or should we just?
The only comment I had in that section is particularly with our psychological services and our community policing. We have had, even in our city, some examples of questionable use of force. And I think that at some point in time, we need to take a look at that, and because I'm concerned that our community especially the African-American community, is getting a little jaundiced with our policing activities in that community.
I hear that. I received your sharing, Mr. Milan. So, right. What about your point under to focus on would you want us to adopt that? The first one, Demetrius, focus on escalating problems. Yeah.
If we're, I mean, I don't, just as a comment, if we're talking about formally adopting this as a report, it seems to me that we're either going to adopt it as amended and go through it and take out or change certain things, or we're going to adopt it as a report. And then when we work through it, we might make changes as we work through it. I prefer this first option because I think that all of the things that you put in here are workable. And I agree with Genevieve that item 2 under responsibility should be struck. But I think the rest of this hangs pretty good. And I know the date on Acorns is going to change, but I think it hangs pretty good myself.
I like the second suggestion from Jeremy, which is you start to implement this and you see how far you can go with it. Because there's a lot that you have laid out to be done within a 3-month time frame. So the implementation is going to tell you what you can and cannot do.
That's a good point.
So you could have it as part of your report, but when it comes time to evaluate what community engagement has done, are you setting yourself up so that it looks like you didn't accomplish your goal? By biting off too much to do in a short period of time. That's all I would say.
I hear that. I honor that sharing to Ms. Genevieve. I guess the question I have then is, if we approve this, then it just kicks roll what it is we need to do. For example, on bullet point number 2, if we say we want this, then the committee needs to reach out to the city and say, hey, how can you help us create 2 slides with short blurbs on what it is we're doing? And so I guess the question is how do we
How do we what?
Well, at one time we talked about, and Ty spoke up on this, but at one time we talked about having a like a public information or a public relations subgroup that would be responsible for developing these public information things along with whoever the staff is at the city, because we certainly don't have the capacity to do that, nor the skills, at least I don't. So none of these things that we're talking about doing with the slides and Zoom, et cetera, Facebook, they can't be done if we don't have some support from the city.
That is exactly my point, David. If you bite off too much, you're not going to get anything done. And so
Well, I just think you prioritize.
Well, that's what I mean. But
yeah.
why not develop a document that says we can do X, Y, and Z within this short time period?
Well,
It's just my suggestion.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could say as a committee, if the board approves this, then the board is saying, yes, we agree intellectually with this, but we're not setting any priorities on what's first, second, and third, and let the committee choose those priorities and get them done as they can get them done. I mean, for example, reshaping or resharing the 21 CP report, that is you know, that would impinge, Sheila, on maybe some of your time that you're planning to have next month on policies. And I just don't know, in terms of our implementing this, I think the committee feels that all of it's important, but I'm not exactly sure where we go to get the horses to get it done.
Gerald has his hand up.
Again, I always kind of think, well, what can you do easiest and quickest of your thing there? It seems like that last bullet point on the first page there, to reach out to police advisory boards, and the other one reaching out to the police department about being included in some of their public relations functions. Probably be the easiest ones. I'm not sure if Demetrius, do we need to go through the board first, or can the subcommittee simply reach out to the police department to say, hey, we'd like to join you in some of your functions you have going on or presentations going on to the community? Is that something they can do directly, or do we have to prove it to the board first, where they can contact the police department directly?
Normally the board chair can authorize that if she wants to say, hey, Gerald, you can send out an email if you like on the behalf of the board to begin having conversations. Like that's within her wheelhouse if she prefers.
Okay. And that's all I was checking. It just seems to me, Jeremy, that we could have a direct reach out to the police department, their crime prevention and public relations portion, and that they always have scheduled many things and events that they are doing, that I'm sure some of them might be kind of complementary to our goals and our objectives that you want to do on the community engagement side of it all. And that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're simply looking for a good event that, kind of does two things for us. Yeah.
Demetrius.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't see everyone, but point of
You
clarification.
can take it down now, sir. You may take it down.
Oh. Just a point of clarification. Jared, are you talking within Raleigh, or are you talking about the other police advisory boards throughout the city? I mean, throughout the state.
The Raleigh Police Department.
Right.
Okay, I can handle that. Just let me know. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about, for example, like Durham or Charlotte. Like you're fine.
Oh, no. I just want to know if Jeremy, as a subcommittee person, can say, hey, Demetrius, can we, check and the police, crime prevention unit.
Absolutely. Just send it to your board chair for transparency, and we can take care of that on our end.
But now let me clarify our point on the other police advisory boards. We specifically wanted some representative group of our board to try to arrange meetings with these other PABs to see what they're doing, how they're functioning, etc. And I still think that's an important thing to do. But I mean, if we approve this document and then let Jeremy and the others on the committee designate their priorities, then we can go forward.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ty.
Thank you. Sorry, I had my hand raised, but I don't know if you could see it or not.
I couldn't see it at first. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll take it down. First of all, let me just chime in and say kudos to Jeremy for putting this together. I want to first of all acknowledge the fact that as a member of the Community Engagement Committee, the work and the time and the effort that Jeremy put into making this presentation possible is definitely appreciated, and I am thankful of it and for it. Secondly, Gerald Takama, you beat me to the point on a couple of questions, and starting as to, okay, if we're not in agreement on the complete package, then let's find a place where we can find an agreement on, and at least have that as our starting point. And Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, if and we can continue the conversation and regarding a lot of this, considering we're up against our time. I'm willing to, as a member of the committee, as a member of the subcommittee, to step up my engagement and be able to take some of the lists of the bullet points that were there. And I'm sure that others on the committee will be willing to step up as well. But the main thing is, because of where we've been over the past 2+ years now, as far as the pandemic is concerned, there's so much that the committee has done and so much that they're looking to do that has been stifled or put on pause, that we'd like to, we'd like to, first of all, just start the engine again to be able to reach out to community, reach out to the members of law enforcement, and provide an opportunity to say, to use the metaphor that Jeremy laid out before, that we are that bridge between community and law enforcement. So having said that, I'll yield the remainder of my time.
Okay, so do you want to table this or do you want to approve with amendments?
I move we approve it with the dropping of item number 2 under responsibilities and leave it to Jeremy and the committee to work out the priorities as quickly as we can make them happen. And of course, we keep the board informed as to where we are on each of these issues. I think Gerald had a good point about making some direct contacts with the RPD structure, and we can certainly, with Ty back on now, we could certainly look at some of the public information things that we could work through the city to get done and get posted. So, because that was one of the things Ty said he could help us on. So there are at least 3 or 4 things that we could get going here right quickly. So I move the approval of the documents minus number 2.
Is there a motion for, he moved to approve, is there a second?
Seconded, Madam Chair.
All in favor of moving forward? Just raise your hands.
Oh, hold on.
Motion is approved. There's one other item I do want to discuss. Demetrius, can I discuss that real quick? Okay, one other item.
It was advertised that we were going through 8:30, I thought. It was the last email I saw, but we're fine.
I didn't have that email, but I do need to do the new business, which we need to do a date of spring retreat in April. So we do have to do that. So we need to put it on the calendar. What day and time in April for our retreat?
What about April? It'll be on Saturday, I assume. What about April the 9th?
April the 9th?
That's my birthday, madam. I love you all and I love our work. Well, I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Jeremy, you've seen
You
my
can do it.
cakes.
I
I
don't
can make
care.
you a cake. That's the one thing I can cook.
I'm old. Let's do it.
Let's move beyond the 9th.
Okay.
Let's push it out beyond the 9th since it's his birthday and I also have a conflict.
Okay.
All right, 16th.
That works for me.
Now, let me just
16th.
say, the 16th, that's Easter is that Sunday, the 17th. If that bothers anybody.
Yeah, I can't. It's the Triduum. So maybe that following the
Well,
23rd or
I'm going to be.
Yeah,
out
the
of
only
state.
problem with moving it to the 23rd is our meeting in April, our board meeting in April will be on the 27th. We really should get this done.
Well, we
advance of that board
have to
meeting.
get it done. We have to
Well,
get it done in April.
What I was going to ask is it possible to do Sunday afternoon? I know that the 9th is Jeremy's birthday. What about the 10th of April, which is a Sunday? Is that possible with people?
Works for me.
Anyone
Sorry,
else?
wait a minute. Sorry, let me just ask something. Is Easter the 17th of April?
Excuse me, Easter is the 17th of April, yes.
Okay, then that means that the 10th would be Palm Sunday, so we should not do that one.
All
what
right.
about the
so
2nd or the 3rd of April?
Yeah, how about no?
What about the 2nd of April, which is a Saturday?
2nd of April? Anyone looking at their calendar?
I am.
And
I'm looking at the calendar now, Madam Chair.
the 2nd of April is the beginning of Ramadan, but that is the only holiday.
Those available 2nd of April?
I can be.
Everyone agree a
myself
second of
available for that.
April? Deontay, you had your hand up. You good? Cindy, you good? Jeremy, you good?
Yes, ma'am.
Gerald, you good? Mr. Ty, you good?
So
You're
are
on
we
mute.
talking,
April
talking
2nd works
about a
for me.
9 a.m. retreat again, Madam Chair? For half day?
9 a.m. We should be finished before 12 or by 12.
Why don't we say it's 1 at the latest?
Yeah,
Yeah.
by 1. Demetrius is, could we set it up then? Mr. Ty, you said what now?
I was saying that I'm available for April 2nd.
Okay. Demetrius? April 2nd,
Yes, ma'am.
from
We
9 to
can,
1.
we'll make sure that we're doing the virtual in person.
In person,
Yeah.
for God's sakes, yes.
I would say it depends upon the viruses.
Yes.
I'm not going to commit to in person at this point in time. It will depend upon the viruses.
Yes,
Let's hope
ma'am.
it's gone by then.
But we are gonna schedule it for April 2nd from 9 to 1, that Saturday.
Right.
Whether it's virtual, whether it's in person,
Saturday, April 2nd, 9 to 1.
okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll all agree upon April the 2nd from 9 to 1, our retreat. Thank you
Right.
all. Anyone, any more questions? If no more questions are concerned, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, everyone.